Very good morning to fellow colleagues, aspiring coaches. It's always good to see that many faces in the crowd who shares the same passion. I'd like to thank CoachSG for this opportunity to present to you and share with you some of my own experience as an athlete, as a coach, and building a business model that allow me to do what I love, which is coaching. Pretty much my whole life has been evolving around swimming, the sport of swimming. And somehow or another, it kind of reached out to other sports. And I think as a coach, you may not only specialize in your sport, but I think you have the ability to reach out to the others. And I think this conference is a great opportunity for coaches of different sports to come together, to share their knowledge, share their expertise, and grow together. The journey started with my father and his own sporting aspiration. So today's storytelling, as Brandon has mentioned, I hope that I can inspire many of the aspiring coaches here to take on the path and take sports as a career choice. So these are the 6 areas I'll cover. My journey as an athlete, my journey as a coach, and then how I got involved with the business side of it. And I'll share with you the business model that we have built. And then being inclusive and giving back to society. And as you age, wisdom comes with it. I've been through what many of the younger athletes have gone through. Sometimes you can kind of relate to what they're doing now. And with that wisdom, you realize there is a purpose in life and that you want to fulfill that full circle. So living life through sports, and that's my future. As you can see, the graphics, we all go through this pathway. Being a baby, being a toddler, okay, and those who are parents, you understand what you have to go through with your child, the different ages, and the behavior patterns that they present. And those are challenges to you as a coach too. So those of you who have not become parents yet, trust me, your work with the kids will help you to be a better parent. As I mentioned, my father is my source of inspiration. And when he was young, he loved sports. He went into swimming. And he actually migrated from China at the young age of 18. And his first job was being a lifeguard. I think it was a young kid swimming complex. And he went on to coach many of the young aspiring athletes. And one of the examples was he would actually take on students even if they could not afford to pay. And that's something that has been imprinted in me that when you're providing a service, sometimes circumstances may not actually present itself in a way that it is going to be financially sound. But my dad still continued to provide the service and changed the life of many of these individuals. So I've seen him coach young kids. I've seen him coach older adults on the skill of learning how to swim. And he has taught them the survival skill. And then as we move along, my dad became a pool supervisor at the Farrer Park Swimming Complex. And I believe some of the young gentlemen here was under my father's charge, Bob, Mr. Wong. And I believe he has influenced the people that he worked with over the years. And he went on to teach weight training and to the lifeguards too. But his ultimate passion was really in the sport of judo. So after work, usually you finish about 5 o'clock, you straight away take a bus down to Rocho Canal Road. There's this building called White House, and the judo club was on the, I think, 7th or 8th floor. There's a makeshift sheltered area on the rooftop, and he spent the rest of the evening coaching the judo team. So his dedication, his passion for the sport provided the source of inspiration. And when we talk about creating a sustainable sporting ecosystem, I think what I've gone through as an athlete and then a coach will reflect, as I share the story, the journey, it will reflect how it became a sporting ecosystem that we can continue for the rest of our life. And the setup of the APS Swim School and the Aquatic Performance Swim Club is quite a unique partnership altogether. And I'll share a little bit more as we go along. So how did it all start? The influence that I had as an athlete made a big impact. My journey going through the challenges that I had as an athlete, and having the friends, the family members, coaches, and some of the lifeguards who have taught me some of the diving skills when my dad's not around, and just giving me tips on how to breathe correctly. Those are, as again Brandon mentioned, your quiet heroes. Yeah, people behind the scene, they've been very supportive. And through that, you learn, you establish a passion, and you find your source of inspiration, and you find your source of purpose. So here's a picture of my dad. And he went on to represent Singapore 1964 Tokyo Olympics. He missed out competing because he was underweight. He fell ill and he missed his fight. But again, that didn't stop him from giving back to the sport. He went on to coach, and he provided the inspiration to one of the best performing judo team ever at the 1973 SEA Games in Singapore, where the judo team brought back 7 gold medals. And you can see some of the pictures of my dad with his training buddies. Guess how old they were? The one in the middle. They're all in their 70s. And at that time, they're benching a lot heavier than me, 120 kg. So it's like, and whenever they go to the gym, I think everyone is just focused on them. And there's a picture of, again, following my dad's passion. When we went to the 1984 LA Olympic Games, the first thing we wanted to do after we finished our race was to visit the Gold's Gym. And at that time, that's where Arnold Schwarzenegger, all the big names, would train there with Joe Wader, Ben Wader. And next to myself will be Dr. Tay.
Every moment matters in Dover Park.
One thing I have to share with you is during this period of time, back in the 70s, 80s, many of the swim coaches would actually shy away from strength training or weight training, because the idea was that if you bulk out too much, it will affect your performance in the water. And this is where my dad challenged me almost practically every day with weight training. And again, that was the foundation of where I built my advantage in the sport swimming. And again, the school that I went through, ACS, always remember this motto: the best is yet to be. And that applies to anybody. Okay, I think it's always good to have a motto to live by. And whenever you achieve something, you always remember there's always something that's going to be better. And you're always striving to be better. And here, again, the pictures reflect the people who have inspired me and influenced change. The one person that has been thrown into the water, that was after winning the school nationals, was Mr. Wee Mo Nam. He's our math teacher. And during those days, the teachers would volunteer their time to be swim coaches. So after school, they'll stay back. They provide extra study lessons, makeup lessons for math or physics. Physics was done by Mr. Len Wei Ling. And that was the environment that I grew up in, where there was a lot of, I would say, passion and giving back. They don't get paid, mind you. And you can see the teammates I have. One of them, Un Jin Tek, former CEO of Sports Council, and a dear friend. And then Tay Kun Hien, who went on to be a prominent surgeon. And then Koo Teng Chong, he is been very successful as a banker. So the trip that changed my life, and that was the trip to the Hawaiian International Swimming Invitational. And this was organized by the US government in place of the 1980 Moscow Olympics. for countries that boycotted the games. But that was an opportunity for me, and that was the turning point. So during that meet, only one swimmer and one team manager. If you all remember Mr. Ang Peng Siong, we flew first class, Pan Am. That was my first experience of first class. It's just bigger seats. And I swam 23.22 in the heats, ranked 4th. Mind you, I'm just coming into a swimming scene, an international swimming scene, still pretty raw. And the finals, all Americans, except for myself, and I finished 8th. At that time, the world record was set by Joe Bottom, 22.71. And at the age of 17, I was already the fastest swimmer in Asia. I didn't know all this. I didn't know I was the fastest swimmer in Asia. The only thing that I went to Hawaii was to just race. And I love the 50s. You ask me to race 100, I'll struggle. So the other swimmers from Asia, you got swimmers from Japan and China. They were ranging about 24, 25 at that time. And from that trip, Phil Hansel offered the full scholarship to attend University of Houston. And again, I didn't know what that meant, but my dad told me, you must take the trip to Houston. And honestly, I didn't realize it was quite difficult to get air tickets because my dad doesn't earn very much. So again, to buy that air ticket, I think he actually got friends to support it and sponsor the tickets. So my experience in Houston gave me a different perspective altogether. And this gentleman, took the chance on me. And being probably the only Asian in the team, probably he's taking a huge risk because there are not many Asians in U.S. collegiate program, except for those U.S.-born Japanese or Asians already in the system. And my whole experience in Houston was really amazing because you get to really work with the best in the world, and you get to see the best athletes performing on, the campus ground. People like Carl Lewis, who was 9 Olympic gold medalist, and you can see him practically at the track every day, training. Leroy Burrell, another great sprinter, who's the current head coach for University of Houston. And then you have the basketball team, the dream team, the 5 Slammer Jammer. You have Clyde Drexler, Hakeem Olajuwon. Those are big names at that time. And we also had the NC2A Division 1 ranked number 1 team, University of Houston. They've been winning it for quite a number of years, and some of the top players came from that program. So you kind of immerse into a system where being competitive is your survival mode. You have to be competitive. You have to be ready to race at all times. And the 4 years there, it taught me to be resilient, to be independent. Again, how college life is, it can be a huge distraction, and especially at that young age. So I must, again, go back to, show my appreciation to my dad, because he set the ground groundwork for me. And again, I think what really made the difference was that he told me that you have to make the best of this scholarship, regardless. So, being in this environment, you work with quite a diverse team. You get swimmers from Great Britain, Scotland, South Africa, and there were divers from Rhodesia. Now it's called Zimbabwe. And these are people who you actually keep in close contact and build up the friendship over the years. And that becomes your network. And one of the most successful diving coach for Great Britain now is Jane Figueiredo, who's working closely with Tom Daly, the UK diver who's done well. And during my time in the States, again, I think being competitive allowed me to push the limits. In 1982, this is the world ranking. And just missing the world record, 22.54. The European record then was 22.78 by an East German. And then the Commonwealth Games, our Commonwealth record was set by me. So, you know, I think my 4 years there, we've seen huge progress and many breakthroughs. And this was 1982 Asian Games after the Commonwealth Games that I swam in, and almost got a medal. So again, in Asia, the difference in performance is quite huge. But again, at that time, being young, you just went out to race. And here, I just quickly show you a clip of the experience of competing with some of the best in the world.
His time set 1981. Chuck Samuels, please tell us our lane timing. Swimming in the championship of the men's 50-yard freestyle. In lane number 1, the former American record holder in the 50-meter freestyle. He attended the University of California at Santa Barbara, swimming for the Tandem Swim Club, Bruce Stahl.
Bruce is ranked top 10 in the world then.
The University of Texas, representing Longhorn Aquatics, John Pohl. In lane 3,
John was coached by Eddie Reese, then Joseph Schooling's coach.
last year's long course championship, a high school senior from Collinsville, Illinois, swimming for the Parkway Swim Club, Tom Yeager.
Tom Yeager went on to break the world record in the 50s. He became a 50 sprint specialist. Robin was the current world record holder then.
A native of Singapore and a sophomore at the University of Houston, representing Houston, Chong Ang.
I like the colors, red and white, Singapore colors.
Representing Santa Clara, Chris Kavanaugh.
Chris is also world ranked.
Winner of the 100 and 200 yard freestyle, world record holder in the 100 and 200 meter freestyle, swimming for the War Eagle swim team, Rowdy Gaines.
Rowdy held the world record for the 100 and 200 free then, and went on to win the gold medals at the 84 LA Olympics for the 100.
Robin Levy, the NCAA champion, American record holder, probably with the best start in the world. He gets off better than anyone. His top challenger in lane 7, Rowdy Gaines. Rowdy, a 3-time All-American in the NCAA meet, already has won the 100 and 200 freestyles in this meet. The start is ever so important in this race. This is the most difficult event for the meat starter to get off successfully. Let's watch it very carefully.
Had a little bit of problem with lane number 4 there to tighten the starting block, but evidently everything's secured now, so the men have been called to the block, and the starter, I believe, is ready to take off. Lane 3, 6, and 7 all went in the water.
Those days you're allowed 2 false starts.
Freestyle going into trials, a lot of false starts. Rowdy Dean's winning that.
And Tom Yeager is well known to actually false start to create a distraction.
Is now in the driver's seat. Robin Leaney has an excellent start. The starter in a championship final will be very reluctant to have them come back up for fear someone will go in a second time and be DQ'd. As you look at some of the field, including Leaney.
Rowdy Gaines went on to do NBC's Olympic commentary for swimming. Yeah.
Leaney is right now in great shape.
And the last one off the block was lane number 6, Chris Kavanaugh. He had a delayed reaction there, but out in front is lane number 4, Robin Leaney, the defending champion in this event. And off the wall first is Robin Leaney in the Senator Stream. He is swimming without a cap. The lane 5, Sean Ang, University of Houston, is right beside him.
Sean Yang coming on strong, but Leaney might have just touched him.
He did not. It was Sean Ang. University of Houston placed fourth in this event. with the
Okay,
Olympic
so
champion.
50 yards is almost like
By Houston. Here's the
well,
sophomore there.
42 meters.
There is his time, Sean Ang, 19.86. The American record was 19.36.
And I'm sure some of the swim coaches may look at a video and do assessment now and critique. The heads are too high. Yeah, too many splashes.
Sean Yang doing very well. Let's watch the turn in the last lap. Leaney got a great start. He's very good, but the whole second lap is Sean Yang as he comes off. Extremely strong in the turn. He's got a good turn too. But look at Sean just muscle his way in the middle of the pool. Coming up strong. Sean
So as you hear the commentary, muscle his way. And this goes back to my dad providing the foundation of building up my strength. And this is an event that I have a particular passion about. 50 meters freestyle, if you look at how it has evolved, it's just amazing. Now the world record is 20.91, and still that was done with a full body suit. Again, that idea of breaking 21 seconds itself is incredible. And going back to Kipoche under 2-hour run, that is again amazing. So I think here again, as you look back, I think humans tend to limit themselves until someone breaks it. And I think that's the beauty of setting records. It is meant to be broken. But I think how it's going to be broken, I think it requires teamwork and people coming together, and like that marathon race going under 2 hours. Who are your expertise that you put together that helps Kipoche to break that 2 hours barrier? So, as an athlete, again, looking at the challenges and then the funding, not having enough resources, you make do. And for me, when I was in college, I spent most of my time in the dormitory because food is free. It's part of the scholarship. So I didn't have to pay that much. And pocket allowance is only coming in occasionally. So all I need was just the air ticket. Yeah. And social integration, mixing around with the other swimmers. You can see kegs of beers in their rooms. Okay, I couldn't afford that, so I was fortunate. And then smoking pot is a common thing. Again, I cannot afford it. So it's sometimes good to be poor. And adjusting to the culture, obviously the first 2 years was tough. But again, once you go to Houston, you realize it's pretty cosmopolitan. They have 2 Chinatowns in Houston, so they have a large Asian population there. So my first impression was cowboys and Indians when you go to Texas, but it wasn't. So went to 84 LA Olympics, 1988 Seoul Olympics, did my national service in between. And my journey through the Olympics taught me many things. Okay, as you realize, they didn't have the 50 meters freestyle in 84. If they had it, it could have been a different story altogether. But again, maybe I wouldn't be standing up here sharing the story. And then, maybe I wouldn't even chosen the path of setting up the swim school and the swim club. Again, going back to being poor, okay, it makes you look at things differently. And this experience taught me that, hey, things do happen for a reason. Yep. And my journey into the 50 free, the first inaugural 50 free event at the Olympic Games. It was heart-wrenching, but again, a huge learning experience. And finally, the last race in 1993, SEA Games, to finish up my swimming career. And I think during that time, you were dealing with a psyche where, hey, if you're 31 years old, you gotta look for a job, man. You're too old, yeah. But if you look at the current climate, the age group, there's no real, age limit, if you really think about it. But if you have someone like Dara Torres at the age of 40, after giving birth and coming back winning a silver medal at the Olympic Games in the 50 free, I think eventually it's all in the mind. Yeah, the journey as an athlete can go beyond. It's just how long you want to put in and make an effort out of it. For Dara Torres, I think the background is she lives in Beverly Hills. Obviously, she's got plenty of money. Yeah, so I think age is just a factor to consider, but not the main thing. I'll just quickly show you this video. This is the second video, and then she'll finish up. So my first Southeast Asian Games was in KL, 1977. Retired 1993, so 16 years.
We have the introduction of swimmers here in lane number 5. Richard Sembera
and
of Indonesia.
93, I was dealing with injury. I had a slip disc during one of the weight training sessions. So I had a chiropractor that was with me at that time, helping me to manage that.
Raymond Papa. Ang Peng Siong is seated, the best swimmer in this heats this morning. He's in lane number 4. And he should be expecting a good fight from lane 3, Wisnu of Indonesia on his left.
And don't forget that Richard Sambera has been trying to overcome Ang Peng Siong, but Ang Peng Siong is...
Peng Siong has shaven his head for this event.
Big difference from the OCBC Aquatic Center.
This is going to be a very interesting race.
And quick too, Hobeng.
So you realize I had a good lead, and then somewhere at about 40 meters, my back kind of gave way. So that prayer was a sign of relief, really. So with my journey as an athlete, there's so much that I've picked up through my experience, and again, that allows me to, kind of set my plans into coaching, and then just creating a sustainable sporting ecosystem in the sport swimming. And here, the influence that I got, I did some research. Phil Hansel was able to coach on deck at the University of Houston with minimum wage. He was paid only like $14,000-15,000 a year for his role. So you wonder, how does he sustain that? And it's the Phil Hansel Swim Academy, one of the most established swim academy in Houston area. And it's a backyard pool. And he was able to raise enough resources to fund his real interest, which is his passion in college swimming. So he's built a whole industry to sustain his interest in coaching. And one thing I love about his swim academy is that his outreach was through 3 different generations. And that is amazing on its own. But I think when he passed on, that swimming academy also kind of went with him, because I think that's the other part of the ecosystem which I probably would want to continue the legacy if I'm not even around. And I think that is important in how we plan succession. And signing up, being a member of the American Swim Coaches Association, plenty of resources there. National Swim School Association, and now it's called the U.S. Swim School Association, where all the private operators come together and share ideas. Again, I think that's the beauty of being in the States. You have that network of people, like-minded people, willing to share and to help each other to be better. And I went on to visit the International Swim School in Japan, one of the first swim school operator in Japan that I've seen. And they were very systematic in how they run their programs. And then again, signing up to be a member of the Australian Swim Teachers and Coaches Association. That again provided a lot of resources. And AusSwim was another platform of training swim teachers. So as you kind of venture into building up a sporting ecosystem, you need to do your research, you need to do your planning before you take on the challenge. And here with the swim school, we cover different aspects. You have to learn to swim, we have artistic swimming, we bring them to an age group level, and then those who are talent ID, they'll go on to the national program. Likewise with diving and special needs. Diving is quite interesting. We only got a trampoline and 1 meter diving platform. But it's good enough to build a base for the supply chain to the national program. And we have actually quite a few divers who went on to represent the country and did well. So keywords: confident, competent, and complete. We have to have a system that is confident of delivering. Parents will expect that. Being competent, again, you need to equip yourself with knowledge. You're networking with the industry practitioners and keeping updated. And then just having a complete, wholesome approach to teaching the kids how to be water safe. And our values are stated there. We treasure those values. We work with integrity, pride, passion, and professionalism. So as you set up your, system, there must be something that you fall back on in terms of your guiding principles. And then here again, the swim school was a business. Swim school is a business entity. Yeah, it's set up as an organization that is able to provide resources. And Aquatic Performance Swim Club is a non-profit swim club, and it gets most of its support from the swim school program. So we covered swimming, para-swimming, artistic swimming, and then diving. And again, especially when you have your wife working with you, it is a challenge because every day we have to ask ourselves, why do we do this? Having the swim club, just give you a rough figure. Okay, hiring of coaches. If you go into pool rental and all that, it does cost a lot, and easily $500,000 a year just to operate a swim club. So again, it's the passion that drives you, for a positive outcome. And here again, I always like to borrow this phrase from Forbes Carlyle, the legendary swim coach. We are not here to create champions, but an environment where champions are inevitable. Yeah. So the emphasis is really on the environment. And again, when you put that emphasis on the environment, I think it creates a healthy pathway for the coaches, for the swimmers, for the parents. There's some horror stories I can share with you about how some parents who come into the program and expect the world magic to happen. And I'm sure many of you coaches have that experience too. But again, when we have guiding principles in our philosophy, I think it is very easy to share and kind of use that as your, again, guiding principles to educate parents, the swimmers. And I've had the opportunity to meet Forbes Carlyle and Ursula in their backyard pool, their very first swimming pool. And again, it's quite amazing. It's small operations, maybe about 1,000 students in the backyard pool. And one day, this guy from New Zealand, a former New Zealand swimmer, by the name of John Coots, approached Forbes and say, hey, I'm going to help you build this swim school. And now it is a multi-million-dollar business. John Coots is the current owner of the Carlyle Swimming. And one of the other owner, part owner, is Richard Kahalan. He's a former schoolmate of mine in Houston. So again, your network is important. You need to establish it over the years. You never know when those opportunities will come forth. So this element of friendship through your years is important to keep. So again, just highlighting the business entity and the non-profit. This itself is an ecosystem, and career in sports. Again, you are creating opportunities for swim teachers, for coaches to be part of a sporting ecosystem. And then you got your admin, your support staff, trainers, people who are in the strength conditioning, biomechanics. They all have a role to play. Nutritionists. So as you can see at the bottom, those are some of the areas that you kind of reach out to. Again, what you teach, it is a survival skill. I think every parent wants their kid to be water safe. So I think that is the foremost important of our existence. Working with communities, and then you're talking about national pride. Okay, you're involved with their childhood, when they're teenagers, and then when they grow up into being an adult. You all have a role to play, and especially coaches who spend more than 20 hours a week with the swimmers. Your influence is huge. So I think that we have to understand and play a positive role. And here I'd like to kind of evolve into this, how we got into para-swimming. Probably after this. I want to put this up because I was part of this committee back in year 2001, where Goh Chok Tong, former Prime Minister, initiated this committee of Sporting Singapore. And it was pretty intense dialogue session with stakeholders and coming up with the 40 recommendations. And, I think that was really the beginning of our sporting culture. And I think we've come really that far and at an amazing pace. Now with the sports school, with the new sports hub, and with CoachSG being established, we didn't have all those back then. Coaches were just coaches, and everyone was just pretty much doing their own thing. And now, things are falling in place. So again, just going back to that. And Abdullah Tamugi was the Minister for Community Development and Sports. I like the title sports under the ministry's title. And again, that was a turning point for us. I think we all agree that sports is a nation-building tool and brings people together. And I think here again, the impact that the coaches have on the community is huge. So the three pillars, you're talking about sports excellence, sports for all, sports industry. I think previously the emphasis has been pretty much on sports participation, and it went on to high performance, and I think a huge area that's still yet to be tapped is the sports industry, and I think we have that potential to grow that in Singapore. And through the setup of the swim school and the club, we were able to give back to sports And it's winning moments like this that makes it really joyful being a coach and being able to make a difference. And I must put more emphasis on this, that it does take a village to build a team. Yeah, everyone has a part to play in it. And so, how did I get involved with parasports? Actually, my early exposure was with my dad. He was coaching visually impaired guy. All I remember is we call him Sergeant. I think he lost his sight because of a grenade explosion and something like that. But he came to the swim program and he used stroke count as a way to cover the distance. And we had to make sure we had just one lane rope set up for him as a guide. But you can see the determination in him that he was, trying to overcome. So, 1990s, then I met with Frankie Tanapal and Tan Ju Sing. Those are two key people who have made that big influence of me getting involved with parasports. And I was actually coaching Frankie back then. He's passed on. So if anything, Frankie has been a big influence in this. And 96, 2000, I worked with U.S. Paralympian gold medalist Greg Burns. He's established painter now. Yeah. And went on to work with Teresa, Peng Siong, Wei Song, and many of the other medalists. Here, these are some of the pictures that from the Paralympics, and you have a picture of Greg Burns. And my experience as coach at major games here. Okay, creating a winning culture, 1995 to 2015 SEA Games. From the club alone, we have actually collected 94 medals, including relay members. Actually, if you look back at the stats, it's pretty amazing. And then from the ASEAN Para Games, 84 medals. And that's only until 2013. As a national head coach, again, having that ecosystem, it actually came to a point where it was self-sustaining, and I was able to take time off I have to kind of take myself off the swim school and the club to take on this role as the national head coach. And the three things that we focus on is to build a professional coaching community, and then building a team with a winning attitude and a world-class attitude to swimming. So our first experience, 2009 Rome World Championships. When we went there, you know how the other countries like to set up their recovery centers? We were first, typical Singaporean, we choked one area. And we put up, barriers. And we behaved just like the other winning countries, the US and the Great Britains, and, So we wanted to be like them. And we had our ice bath set up and all that also in the massage bed. So this, the people who have been impactful and been really an inspiration to me, Bill Swettenham, Roger Fitzgerald, Dr. Taizuki, and then Dr. Comac. And obviously with, the Sports Institute, Sports Medicine support team, they've been tremendous help. Or this picture of Joseph Schooling being carried by Dr. Comac, 2012. And here's the village and the stakeholders. As you can see, the list is just, it goes on. Okay, somehow or another, your outreach is just going to be huge. And everyone has a part to play. In SSA, we have 36 affiliates. Okay, if you really look at it, there are maybe about 11 active clubs with good programs. So imagine if in Singapore you have 30, 40,000 babies born a year. Okay, give it over 5 years. That's 100,000. Okay, 200,000 babies or infants that you have to deal with, kids who you have to deal with. And you have to create programs that would teach them how to be water safe. Those numbers are huge. And for Olympic events, 38 events. If each country, 2 swimmers allowed, you have 76 medals opportunity. So how many service providers do you need to fulfill that? So, looking at the number of affiliates that we have, active clubs, I think we have a huge potential. I think if you look at the 11 clubs, easily, we're looking at $10 to $20 million that have been invested into coaches, into pool rental, into equipment, into travels, and so forth. And that's not a small figure. And if you can imagine the numbers again of children that you have to develop programs to make sure they're water safe, it can actually go up even further. And this is not including external operators who are not affiliated to Singapore Swimming. So if you include the external operators in condominiums and all that, you have to really look at what your potential is. So that is the whole cycle that you go through. And I have to say that being an athlete, it sets the foundation. Being a coach, you acquire the knowledge and you influence change. And then the business model makes it financially sound, so you don't have to worry too much. Okay, if you have it right, you have the formula right, it goes on. And always go back to your family as your grounding values. I think any business, you can always build it up again, but families, I think that is tough. Okay, and that's how we stay grounded. And then the community is all about giving back, and being able to give back is a gift to you as a coach. And do it with humility and purpose. Aging with grace. The work with parasports and having to take care of my parents when they're aging, you realize, okay, somehow we're going to be there. We will get there. Okay, as we age, we need to learn how to manage that. So, having gone through parasports and dealing with aging population or aging parents, I think we have to prepare ourselves. Okay, so this is just a picture to remind me of, what are my grounding values. Okay, so the future, multiplier with partnership. And I think here again, CoachSG can play a big role in this, in engaging with the stakeholders and building up a vibrant sporting industry. Success with diversity and inclusiveness. So when you run a program, be inclusive, of bringing para athletes into your program. You'll be amazed about how you can learn from each other, the challenges they face and how they overcome it. Those are very important values that we grow up as a coach. Multi-million-dollar aquatic industry. Very good example, the Japanese model. One school operator, 30 swim schools, and each center maybe about 2,500 to 3,000 students. So look at those numbers. And they have 2 high-performance centers. They just built a 50-meter high-performance center in Tokyo. So we have not reached our potential yet. And then likewise with US models and Australian models, they've been evolving and becoming very successful. Supporting social entrepreneurship, I think that's important. That everyone plays a part. And making every Singaporean a swimmer. I think ultimately, as swim coaches, I think that is our task. But I think it falls with every other sport. I think every coach in the particular sporting field has a role to play. And I think, if I like to learn Aikido, at least I know there is a place that I can go to with a qualified coach. Okay, so before I end, always ask yourself, what's the purpose in life? Okay, as you build up your sporting career. As you can see here, Charlie Brown saying, we only live once, Snoopy. He says, wrong. We only die once. We live every day. So live every day. Okay, just to touch on, again, I like the term quiet heroes, okay, because again, behind every successful coach or athlete, there is a quiet hero. There's always someone else that's supporting you. Find out, again, always reach back, show your appreciation, and I think appreciating the history of sports is just as important as you take on the pathway of being a successful coach. So I'd like to thank you for all your presence here and the support. And I'm, truly honored to be able to share my life's journey and how it has evolved. And I hope to be doing this even when I'm in my 80s. So.
That's all, folks.